Good morning, everybody, and welcome back for some high-tier Soviet tank gameplay. A pair of battles from the 31st of March, where I was grinding with my T-64A towards my T-64B, of course. And I used very large boosters in both battles, both RP and SL. In the first battle, it was a 300% RP booster along with a 500% Silver Lion booster. Now, I wasn't entirely happy to get battle, because of course that means I can't try to get the first capture point to guarantee that I make good use of the large boosters, but it also means I can play a bit more cautiously and defensively and not go blasting in at full pace just to try and get someplace first and not miss out on the captures either, so it does have its benefits. And I actually had a few moments where I really wasn't sure what I wanted to do tactically during this battle. And ultimately decided, well, the city's probably not the worst way to go, besides trying to drive out and get out across the open fields here against Abrams and Leopard 2Ks. Probably not that wise, so go into the city, negate the advantage of the speedy vehicles a little bit, and see what happens. And of course, the T-64A's mobility isn't terrible as long as you're moving forward. If you want to try to reverse away from something, well, that's where you run into an issue. But trying to go straight ahead is not really that bad. I mean, especially in something like Poland or Eastern Europe or abandoned factory, you can get moving pretty quickly on the actual paved roads, but you will run into some issues if you need to reverse out of trouble. Anyway, driving through the city here seemed to actually pay off fairly well, as I didn't really encounter any enemies at all. And our team pretty much swept through, the little group of our team swept through the city pretty well, as quite a lot of our team had stopped back at the sniper ridge, naturally, because, you know, 16 snipers all sitting on the same hill is a great plan. Anyway, as I linked up with a T-64B 1984 here, pushed forward with him up to the enemy capture point, and just tried to start watching out for any enemies that we might encounter. Didn't see anything right away right off the start, and then right as I'm trying to move up on this guy here, our T-64B hits him, sets him on fire, and I push forward to try and get a second shot into him to get a little bit of score here. Actually thought I was going to get a kill on the crew compartment there, but I did set him on fire right before he got taken out by the follow-up shot by the T-64B, so one assist, not too bad, and we're in the capture point. Let's start decapping and try to draw them into our ambushes here. I think I shot just a little bit low on that guy, saw him just before his smoke got out, just missed him, and then he got taken out by another T-64A. So I backed in to cover myself along the side of the building here, the big barn here, and just kind of sit and hang out and wait for the enemy to come and try to stop us with a couple of teammates here, more or less covering my back. Fairly well protected from enemy aircraft, although obviously it's not too hard for them to guess where I am if they fly over and don't see me at all. And they definitely know that someone is capturing their point. It's not too hard to figure out where I got to be sitting behind the buildings, but also it doesn't hurt sometimes to just remind your team that hey, I'm up here on the capture point. You guys should come join me up here on the capture point. But so far so good. Kind of boring gameplay, certainly, but I mean, it's really what I need to be doing here. So as you can see, I've got a teammate coming up behind me there, up the road, so there is help on the way. And there are still no enemies really in sight, and I've got basically teammates all the way up to where I am. They just aren't specifically here on the cap with me. A lot of their team has already been knocked out, so that's part of it too. So, I mean, it's not that the team was doing bad or anything, or, you know, not completely eliminating the enemy team, because they were. It's just a little nerve-wracking being in the cap that early and just sitting here waiting and not seeing teammates or enemies, because you figure the next thing that shows up around the corner is probably going to be an enemy tank. And I hear something pulling up alongside of me, turn around, and sure enough, it's apparently a damaged KPZ-70, or I'm not sure what he was doing, because he drove right past me to the back side of me and never shot me, which I still was like in just disbelief. I'm assuming his cannon breech had to be knocked out, because that's the only explanation I really have. He must not have had parts, because by all rights there, I should not still be sitting alive on the capture point. So I assume that his cannon barrel or breech had to have been knocked out, because if he had crew members, they would have been able to switch out probably by the time he got back to where I was. But I'll take it. And oh boy, that reverse speed. I think somebody in the Tank Design Bureaus misinterpreted the order of not one step backwards, and they mistranslated it to not 1 mile per hour backwards. Because you do get 2 miles per hour backwards, but that's it. That's it. Boy, that reverse speed. And here, like I'm telling the team, guys, there's 4 of them left on the team. Everybody please just come to the capture point. We've got 4 guys back at B. Now, it's okay to have defense back at B. But looking at where our team is, like, guys, collapse onto the cap, please. Let's just end this battle. The more people that get here, the better, the faster we win. Plus, I really did not want to miss out on my capture with my 300% RP booster or the 500% Lion booster. And the team actually did collapse on the point for the most part. A lot of the guys actually came up. So it was good. I mean, I don't have any real complaints about the team at all. Just, I mean, they left me a little bit out to dry on the cap, but they were out doing things. It's not like they were all just sitting camping, not doing anything at all. So ended up being fine. Pulled off a kill, a cap, and an assist with a large research and a large Silver Lion booster, and there's nothing to complain about there. Now, this was on the 31st, so I got one of the parts towards the April Fool's build-it-yourself furry tiger. But as you can see, 13,820 research, that is not bad at all. And there's the 85,000 lions for the 500% lion booster, plus the large research booster in a victory. Not a bad way to go at all. And I didn't even really have a particularly great game, so still a victory with a big booster like that is hard to argue with. For the second battle, I had a 500% research booster, and this was a few hours later, and we had full the gap, and I'm going to, as usual, head for my reliable B point to try and get the capture in there. And yes, as you can see at the bottom there was a little bit of an issue with the April Fool's patch update, where a lot of the icons and stuff weren't rendering in properly, and a lot of the pictures and stuff, which was... It was just a little error that they patched out within 10 or 12 hours. Just one of the things that happens sometimes. The little things get broken in some of their patches, and it's a bit of a minor inconvenience. Like, for instance, if I were looking at my shells and I didn't know which one I had. Now, I happen to know that my primary shell in the number 1 slot is my APFSDS rounds, and in the number 2 slot is my Heat FS rounds. But if I, for whatever reason, didn't remember that could, you know, I could choose the wrong ammo there. So it is a little bit of an annoyance, but it didn't really hurt anything. I did laugh a little bit about the NTT Germany on the other team asking me if I was doing a first 10 in the Challenger, which, I mean, there were Brits on my team, so certainly. It was not like it was a crazy thing that he was asking. I just thought it was funny that he was guessing that I was doing the Challenger. So we've, as usual, got our entire team heading to Hogwarts, because that's what everyone does on this map. And one guy going to A, one me going to B, and maybe 1 to 2 guys going for C, but the bulk of the team is going straight to learn about defense against the dark arts and care of magical creatures and so on. But I guess on the plus side, the enemy team also all went to Hogwarts, so at least that's where the bulk of the battle happened, was where our team was. So with the main enemy I'm going to encounter being the sunlight in my face, low over the horizon here, I'm rolling on into the B point to see if I can figure out who it is that's actually capturing it. And I agree with the chat that the submarine combat did get a little bit boring. Now, I understand what the testing behind it was based on, but it was a little bit... It got boring pretty quickly. It was essentially just stop in one spot, settle your sub down, and just fire torpedoes and just manually guide them in on the enemy, which, I mean, that's sort of what the combat is about, but it really did get boring. But anyway... Obviously, the dude who's captured out the B point is inside the house that you can hide in right here. The double wide. So pulled around up here to find him. You can hear him and see him driving around there. Lined up on him, didn't quite hit him because he had driven forward when he saw me come up behind him. And then waited for him to reveal himself, and there he was. Unfortunately, I did not get the penetrating shot I was looking for on him here. Now, I really thought he was going to stop halfway and then come back over to the right, but he actually kept popping back out, back and forth. And eventually drove right up, predictably, to the same spot again, and I was able to take him out, although I wasn't able to hit my fire extinguishers fast enough to save me from the fire, as I had to wait till he popped out again. But I did at least knock him out right before I got killed. So I had at least started the decap on B, but I did score a kill for the large research booster, so wasn't too bad. Unfortunately, though, the bulk of our team had gone to Hogwarts, and I got outnumbered and outmatched by more modern, more mobile tanks at the B point. And our poor solo guy over at the A point had the same thing happen to him. Also, you'll see that I came so close to having the B point captured out, but if I'd have had one more person with me that would have doubled the capture rate on the cap at B, we would have held it, and we would have taken the cap. So I was a little bit annoyed both at the not helping out at the cap and also at the loss of RP that I suffered there by not managing to finish off that capture. I did score the kill, and I did get a decent amount of score from the hits that I took, but the capture would have been really nice with the 500% RP booster on it. At any rate, I pushed back for the A point in my BMP-1 because not only is the bulk of our team left alive, down at C and at Hogwarts, but one of them is going in for the enemy spawn while we only hold 1 point. And the enemy team holds 2 of them, and we're steadily losing tickets. And you can see multiple enemy aircraft up. One coming in back on the backside of A there. You can see his dot as I'm trying to scout any enemies in the woods surrounding A. We've got 3 guys above the C point, and the enemy is taking the C point. Now, unfortunately, at the time here, the ATGMs for most tanks, not everything, but certainly for the BMP-1, were completely unreliable in that you would fire them and they would immediately go 90 degrees into the ground from the BMP-1. So the BMP-1 Sager missiles were completely unusable at this point. So it's basically the RPG launcher gun in the turret, and that's it, which is very unfortunate because the BMP-1 is my Soviet version of my beloved Begleitpanzer from Germany, where it's got the main gun plus a secondary missile launcher. And I love it on the Bagel Panzer, and I do love the BMP-1 when the missiles work. I like its gun as it is without the missiles, but the missiles make such a difference because you can lose your gun and still be able to fire a missile, or you can certainly fire a guided missile at a much more distant target and have a much better first hit probability. But at the time, the missiles were completely unreliable, so I basically just don't use them at all. Now I've got an aircraft flying overhead over the top of me at A, and I'm assuming and hoping that he's going to strafe and spot any enemies that he sees. And I thought that was actually an enemy tank right there, and then realized after a moment that's the first artillery hitting that detonated something as I'm trying to back through these stone fence posts here to get away. Slowly taking the capture point, a little too slowly for my own comfort here. And asking for the air overhead to please strafe the enemy and let us know where they are. We need your eyes up there. Did manage to score the capture, which was nice. And then took a hit from up on the hill and couldn't quite get my tank turned fast enough to get a shot on the guy as I'm taking multiple hits through bushes that I can't see through. And I just realized that, yeah, we're not going to make it much longer in the BMP-1. Although, somehow the Leopard 2K that was driving to the side of me didn't see me, and I was able to kill him. So, decent score with the BMP-1 there. Capture and a kill, but unfortunately I was the only one at that capture point again, and multiple enemies showed up, and we're going to lose it. We did take the B point in the meantime, so the guy that went in towards their cap, or their spawn rather, did actually switch off and turn around and come back to the B point, so good on him. He did actually take the long way around and actually move back to the capture point, so thankfully he didn't just stay at the enemy spawn, he did come back and help and capture. Now the guy down at C, I'm not sure what's going on there. Whether he had an enemy with him, or he was just trying to set up an ambush on the C point waiting for an enemy to show up. But what he really needed to do, as a Leopard 2K knocks out our T-64B up at the B point, what he really needed to do was either click on the map or type and tell us what was going on down at C instead of just sitting there. Now, he's hitting somebody now on the map, so now it's clear that there's somebody else down there. And he may actually even be in the C point, but he's not communicating anything to the team. And again, I have to stress the importance of communicating. Click on the map, type something, light it up with your machine guns, do something to mark that enemy tank and let your team know. Particularly when it's down to just a couple of us left. Now, he does actually take out the enemy tank down at C, but say something. I could come and help you. If there's multiple enemies there, I'll come and help you with them. If it's just one, if it's a light tank or something, let me know that and tell me that you can move in and you can handle it yourself and that I can be sure and safe and confident to go to B. But communication, communication, communication. Now, it's good. It ends up being good because he's taking the C point and we held the B point, although now we're losing it. But thankfully, I had committed to the B point, but now, obviously, there's some other enemy down there that's stopping him from capping the C point, or he backed off of it. But again, I don't know because he's not saying anything. My guess is that an enemy showed up because there's clearly many more enemies left than there are us. And he did end up getting the capture, so I'm not sure if an enemy had moved in or if he just backed off. Another teammate has respawned with us now. So we're back to 3 of us on the ground, as I'm trying to get my way as quickly as possible up to B again. And you can see something driving by very closely. Sure looks like that extra cannon on the top of a Leopard 2K. And it sure was. There's another kill. If we could just pull off a victory here, it's going to pay me very well with my large research booster.
Attention to the designated grid zone.
If only the T-62 had a reload. Did take out a pair of Leopard 2Ks, though. Had a really good battle in the second battle. Was really hoping to pull off a victory, but it wasn't looking too good right about here. I had heard another enemy off to my left here somewhere in either the bushes or off the side of the hill, and that's what I'm looking for. Put my artillery there to try and cover my approach, and got hit by somebody else up the top of the hill, up by Hogwarts. A third Leopard 2K up there. And I hoped to come in and assist the team in their capturing, but unfortunately the other tanks had all been knocked out at the same time as me, so it was just us left in air, and that pretty much was the end of the battle. Too many people went into Hogwarts at the beginning. And unfortunately, I could not get my bombs off at the guy at sea before he totally ruined my plane with his 20 mil cannon, so that was the end of it. Sadly. Would have been a real nice victory. Well, like I said in chat, that's what happens when everybody goes to Hogwarts on a domination map. Sometimes when you get battle and Hogwarts is actually the defensive cap, sure, everybody go to Hogwarts. I'll be the first one to go. Again, almost the same amount of research here, 13,787 towards my T-64B, which took me under 100,000 left to go on it. And just imagine if I'd have been able to pull that off with a victory. It would have been double that. Actually, it would have been even more than that. Probably would have been my highest research battle game ever. It would have been something over 20,000. But still, almost the same score that I got in the first battle with a victory isn't too bad. I'll take the 13,787. 4 kills, unfortunately 4 deaths, and only 1 capture, but it did get me a pretty decent amount of research towards the T-64B, and I finished up the T-64B a couple days later and first 10'd it up, and you can see that first 10 video on my channel. Anyway, that'll do for today. Hope you guys did enjoy the 2 battles. They both ended up with pretty decent research scores anyway. We'll see you all next time. I'm glad you guys stopped by to check this one out, and I hope you all have a great day. Take care, everyone.